Mind Body Miracle community, I hope you're all well. I am just doing a quick live because I'm here in my office with my little helper. You can't see her, she's sitting in the chair. Do you want to stand up, Buns? Honey, my mini me, who has, you can sit down now darling, who has volunteered for me to just do a quick scan on her so that you guys can see exactly what happens during the process of a bioresonance scan. Now, obviously a bioresonance scan can take anything between 2 and 3 hours, depending on somebody's issues, but Honey's been feeling like she's got a bit of a sore throat coming on, so I'm literally just choosing the areas that I want to scan, because obviously I scan Honey quite regularly. She's a lucky girl, I can get her on the scan whenever I want to, so I don't need to do a thorough scan, top to toe, inside out, like I would with a new client. But I just wanted to film this so you get a really good idea of what happens during a bioresonance scan. So I'm going to move the camera over to the screen. Obviously remember that some of this is going to be reversed, but you'll see exactly what comes up. So what I generally say to somebody is, I'm going to sit you in front of the screen, I'm going to put a headset on you, which you're going to see that in a second. You're going to have your hands on metal plates, and I'm going to aim a laser just here at your thyroid. That is picking up biofeedback throughout the body, and we're looking for frequencies and vibrations so we can match the activity of a frequency and vibration that's stored in the machine. I have over 50,000 frequencies stored in the machine. And we're looking for how active that is, because a virus, a bacteria, a pathogen, a parasite, all has its own individual frequency and vibration. And we can see where that is in the body, how active it is, where it's travelled to, and what kind of frequency shift or energy shift it started to change in the body. If a frequency or energy shift has happened in the body, then obviously how that organ is functioning is going to be affected. So what generally happens is, we put them in front of the screen and I say to them, you're going to see a computer generated image of the body part that we're scanning, and then it will start colour coding that body part. When you see yellows and greens come up, that means that that part of the body is functioning quite well. When you start to see reds, blues and blacks come up, don't panic. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything significantly wrong. It means that that area has a shift in energy and frequency, and we need to know why. So we let the scan run. Generally a scan only takes, a full scan, we're not going to do a full scan now, a full scan only takes 15 to 20 minutes, but the reason they're with me for all that length of time is because then I go back to the areas that scored really, really low in frequency or darker in colour, and we have a look at why that has happened, and it will tell me the activity of those particular pathogens. Tallulah's joining in now as well. What's the matter? Do you want to scan? Okay, so I'm going to move this forward a little bit so that you can see the screen, and hopefully the dog will move out the way as well. Okay, let me just re-angle this. Sorry, it's my dodgy camera work. Right, so hopefully you'll see kind of a list of all the organs that we can scan. I mean, I'm going to go and do the driving now, so you won't see me, but you'll see the screen, and I'll keep waffling. But what you can see here is all the different body parts that we can scan in systems of the body. So we can look throughout the entire digestive system. We can expand that and look literally from tongue all the way down to rectum, so gallbladder, duodenum, liver. And I wouldn't necessarily, Tallulah, sorry. I wouldn't necessarily look at every single part of the digestive system if somebody came in with digestive health issues, but I would look at the key parts of the digestive system depending on what their symptoms were. And that's where you really just need to know the knowledge of what's the best part to scan. So I am going to hook Honey up. So she's now getting the headphones put on her, and put your legs out straight for me, darling, and hands on metal plates, and I am just aiming the laser at her thyroid. And then the next thing that's going to happen is I'm going to press play and you'll see the scan start. So this is just asking me if I'm happy with the list of symptoms that I've put in for Honey, which is something we do at the first part of the consultation. And as you can see now, it's starting to scan. So you've got a good indication there where the key areas are, because you've got some darkness showing. Nothing going on there too much with skeletons and bones, which is fab. So here's the chest organs. I'm expecting to see a shift in frequency here because Honey has been complaining of a sore throat, so it could have gone down to the chest. Yes, I think there's something going on there. We'll have a little look. So this is coccyx, spine and kidneys, but that's all looking quite good. Pelvic cavity, lots of yellows and greens there, so that's good. And just remember that, you know, I scan Honey quite a lot and I rebalance her quite a lot, so she does have a lot of yellow and greens. Oh, there's definitely something in the throat there. See them reds appearing? That's showing me there's inflammation there in the throat, so I can believe her now when she says her throat's been hurting this week. This is a cross-section of the abdomen. The liver there is having a little bit of a struggle, I can see, so I'll know to look a little bit deeper into that. So a little bit of congestion in the nose, not loads. Have a little look at that. And these are the areas in the respiratory system that I decided to have a look at because of Honey symptoms. So this is the nasal cavity and the mucous membranes in the nasal cavity. I don't think there's much going on there. I think for her it's more throat and maybe even a little bit in the chest. You can see here, this is the bronchial tubes. There's a bit of inflammation there. Not too bad in the chest actually. We might catch it and it doesn't move down that way, which is good. This is the cross section of the larynx. And the spleen. The spleen's always a good place to scan because the spleen is kind of your anti-pollution organ. So when the body's fighting something, we generally see it in the spleen. So I'm going to show you here, and you can see it's scored the number. It's scored it in number, so that's giving me an idea that the spleen is fighting something off. And I can see lots of reds and blacks here. So if I click on this part, might be hard for you to see this, but I'll read it out. It's actually given me a list of active viruses and bacteria that are going on and the body is trying to fight them off. So now I can see what's happening. I'm going to just give you an example because obviously I would go through all the body parts that were scanning lower and I would rebalance them. So for example, I'll just give you this example, might do a couple more just for you to get an idea. So in the chest organs, have a little look at what's going on in the chest. Bit of strep rumbling around, an underlying adenovirus, which is the virus that sits in the adenoids, can affect the grommets, the tonsils, can get down into the chest, but this would explain what's rumbling around and why that sore throat's happening. A bit of strep, which is strep throat, all in line with her symptoms. So what I would do is I would then send some frequency in. So here you're going to see these reds turn to green because I'm going to send frequency in to the chest, which helps to rebalance this organ. So this works in the same way that tuning forks would work. So if you can remember being in secondary school and you've done an experiment, okay, so you see there the chest was 78 and you had a few reds, it's now 81 and there's a lift in frequency. So I'm just going to do that again and see if I can get rid of all of the reds. There you go. And that's done. So you could probably think, oh, this is just colours changing on the screen. But this works the same way when you have tuning forks in, you might have seen this as an experiment. 2 tuning forks, they touch one and it starts vibrating at a frequency. The other one they don't touch, but it starts matching the frequency. It's called resonating frequency. And this is why we say, oh, that person really resonates with me, because you have the same frequency, you have the same vibration. And just by using biofeedback and sound, we can get these organs to start resonating at a better frequency. Now, how long this frequency will hold, in Honey, the way that we've just rebalanced the chest organs, she doesn't have anything that's particularly active, which I can tell by how it's scored these. They're not ragingly active. So it should last. If we keep an eye on it, a few immune boosting ingredients, maybe some supplements to just make sure that strep's knocked on the head, and that frequency should hold and last. And I do this quite often with my children, that's why they scan quite well. So I'll just give you another example, and then I'll just check to see if we've got any questions. So you see she had a sore throat, that was scoring quite low, and it had a few reds and blues there. I'm going to check if anything's particularly active. There again, we've got that adenovirus and some background strep going on. So I'm going to show you two things here. First of all, I'll do the frequency again, where we can start to rebalance and fine tune how this organ is, well, how the larynx is functioning. And when I do get people coming with significant pain, they do say that they feel a difference quite quickly, which is always lovely to hear. And people that come in, say, with digestive health issues, they tend to settle down quite quickly as well. Of course, how long that holds for will depend on what's active. So if somebody had a raging E. coli infection, I could rebalance it, but it's not going to hold for very long. We need to treat the underlying infection. So there are a couple of reds there still, but there's two whites, and whites tell me that there's backup tissues. That means that area has started to do its own healing. I don't want to interfere with the body's natural healing process, so I won't send any more frequency in. But what I can do, I can go into the inbuilt electronic pharmacy and ask the machine what honey needs to support this area. So it's given me two medications. And this is, I'm not administering the medication, I'm sending the frequency in for the medication. So I literally ask it to send in the frequency, and it's got a cycle of 68. So it's literally going to go up and down 68 times, and that's sending in the frequency of them medications to start rebalancing and supporting the larynx where she has the sore throat. So the good thing about this is there are no side effects with this medication, because we're not physically giving it to her and asking her to digest it. It's just the frequency and vibration of the medication. So amazing stuff it does. I'm just going to have a little look at some questions to see if there's anybody that has anything they want to ask. Okay. No, just a lot of wows. Which is, yeah, it's kind of a bit of tomorrow's world. It's quite mind-blowing. People think it's a bit woo-woo. I have a lot of people that say to me, how on earth is this working? And then ring me about 2 days later and go, I can't believe how good I feel. Some of them even get a bit complacent, and they feel so good that they don't want to do the, they don't feel that they need to do the follow-up protocol stuff that I tell them to do. But then I usually get a phone call about 2 or 3 weeks later saying, okay, I'm dropping back a bit and I should have done the follow-up protocol. The reason that happens is because obviously they've left the underlying bacteria and viruses there. Yes, we've rebalanced, but the viruses and bacteria are still there, rumbling around, and they bring the frequency down again. So a few people, this is brilliant, I can highly recommend. Thank you, Tina. And explain the medication bit again, please, as I found this fascinating. Duly done. Okay, so I'll do another one while I'm explaining it. You okay, honey, to carry on? Yeah. Thank you, darling. Okay, so the bronchial tubes, I'll just send some frequency in, and then I'll do the medication again. So frequency, rebalancing, and because there's something going on in this area, so there's something underlying. Some of the colours don't change instantly because the frequency really does need a shift. So sometimes we have to press them a few times before you create that shift. And you see that one, it didn't, I mean, in some instances, especially when people have big stuff that's been going on a long time, which I can tell by the score, the activity of the pathogen that we find, I can take maybe 10, 15 times of pressing it before it will change. And sometimes you just got to admit that it's not going to change, and we need to rely on the protocol to support it going forward. There's so much more that this machine can do. Honey made me promise not to show a couple of things because one of the things that it can do is it can look at your psychological stresses. And Honey didn't want to share hers today, which is absolutely fine. I am going to honour that, of course. But you can scan the hypothalamus in the brain, and it will look at things that drain your energy, so like mobile phones, how affected you are by those, how affected you are by your PC, geopathic burden, because you can see how it's draining the energy in the hypothalamus of the brain. You can see how active your heavy metals are. You know, have you got a lot of lead, mercury in the brain? You can see your psychological stresses, so what things do you think about and worry about the most, because even a thought or a feeling has a frequency. So Julie asked about the medication bit again. So the medication bit is an inbuilt electronic pharmacy. So there's medication from all around the world stored in the machine. Some of it is homeopathic, some of it is pharmaceutical, but it's not giving the drug, it is giving the frequency of the drug. So when you take a drug, it creates a frequency shift in your body. Rather than give the drug to create the shift, we're just sending in the frequency shift. So very clever stuff, must have taken a lot of programming. I'm not deciding what to administer, I'm asking the machine to decide for me, and it is telling me that in the bronchial tubes she needs 2 doses of this medication, which is from Switzerland, 1 of this one from Belgium, and 5 of this one, which I believe is a UK drug. So I ask it to send in the frequency, and in it goes. It needs 42 cycles for that one. So when I'm scanning and I'm sending in frequency to rebalance, you generally hear a lot of noise in your headset, because that's the biofeedback, and that is the frequency resonation, where you start to rebalance everything in the body. It can be a bit annoying, but people get used to it, so much so that they end up falling asleep sometimes. It sounds a little bit like when we used to have dial-up internet, or sometimes I say, if you remember Space Invaders, it sounds like that in your ears. For this part, where we're sending in the frequency of the medication, you don't hear anything, which is why people suddenly go, oh, I don't think it's working. But trust me, it really does work, and I'll give you my own example. My own example was when I first got the scan, I had horrific periods, which I've had since I've had honey. Horrific being heavy, painful, don't know when they're coming, don't know where they're going, don't know how long I'm going to have them for. I scanned my ovaries and fallopian tubes quite consistently for about 3 months, kept sending in the frequency of the medication that I needed, and now I have a light bleed for 3 days every 28 days. So it does absolutely work, and yes, this is anecdotal evidence, but it's going to be anecdotal evidence only because I have an inbuilt electronic pharmacy. I don't think that any pharmaceutical company is going to do any research on this anytime soon, because I don't have to have a prescription to administer any of these drugs. So it's taking a lot of money away from that particular industry, as you can imagine, which is why when people say, why don't they have this in hospitals? Because it takes a lot of money away from that industry. So let me just have a quick check on questions, and I've got one more other thing to show you, and then I think that will be it, because Honey wants her dinner. So Tina's saying it really does work. Tina's had a scan. Thank you, Tina, for sharing your experience. So one of the things that came up when I just scanned Honey's abdomen, so if I just go back to her abdomen, you can see here, this section here, that's her liver, and there's quite a lot of blacks and reds and blues there, which is an indication that the liver might be struggling to detox at the minute. So if I go into the digestive system, we can have a little look at what's going on in the liver. Where are we? Digestive system. And I'm going to just have a little look at what's going on in the liver, and then I'll also show you in the liver how we have a look at food intolerances and allergies and toxic stress load. Okay, so that's not too bad actually, scoring at a 72. I like to get it above 80. So I'll give that a little bit of a helping hand, because it might be struggling to detox those bacteria that Honey has rumbling around at the moment that is contributing to her sore throat. So let's sort that out. Rebalance that. This can also make you feel tired as well, this treatment, because we're actually creating an energy shift in the body, so it can make you feel quite tired. And as I said, I have had clients that have fallen asleep in the chair. which I don't take personally. And I don't usually talk this much during scanning either. Okay, so honey is predominantly yellow and green there, so that's good. And if I just show you, there you go, she's all yellow and green, perfect. I'm going to just see if there's anything underlying in the liver. So nothing much going on there with in Honey's liver, but what's interesting, when I first got the bioresonance machine over a year ago, Honey had quite a lot of active parasites, and I can see them rumbling around, but right here, down here now. So do you remember this one I mentioned, Honey, called Epiphorus splenneus? And I said it's like a little worm that gets into the liver and the gallbladder and the tummy. And that was really active, but it's down here now, and that's because we've done some parasite cleansing and lots of different protocols to shift that down. So that's great because I know it's working. In the liver, it's a good place to check your toxic stress load. So this is where we can look to see if there's anything in Honey's diet that's creating a toxic reaction. So this one always comes up, doesn't it? Citrus food. Yes. So anything citrusy, Honey has a reaction to. And can you say nice and loudly, what does it cause? What do you tell me it causes there? Heartburn? Yeah. Heartburn. Good girl. So citrus food causes her to have heartburn, which we know about and we try and really minimise. And she also has a reaction to wheat. It's not massive, but it's worth minimising. So we've done a few things to try and minimise that as much as possible. Luckily, she's not a massive pasta eater, but she does like a bit of bread, don't you, darling? Okay, sometimes. Okay, so that's about as much I'm going to show you. Obviously, as you can understand, there's a lot to the machine, and there is so much that I could show you on here, but I've had a lot of people ask, oh hang on, I've got somebody asking the question. I'm just wondering if this could help my dad. He's 85 and has 2 nodules cut from his lungs. His breathing is quite bad. Do you think he could benefit from this? It's fascinating. I used homeopathy quite a lot and I think this is excellent. Okay, Lynn, well, I do work with lots and lots of people with lung conditions. They do say that it has quite a profound effect. Yes, to be honest, the answer is yes. I do think it will help him. Have to remember that everybody responds differently to treatment. So some people need one treatment and feel amazing. Some people need one treatment, need to follow up with a protocol. They need a progress assessment. It's a kind of how long's a piece of string question when someone says how many treatments do you think I'm going to need, all of that kind of stuff. It's difficult for me to say until I've done the initial scan and I know what we're dealing with, but in my personal opinion, and I know you're all going to think, well, of course she's going to say that, but in my personal opinion, I think this is prevention's better than cure. And even if you don't have any massive health conditions, it's always great to have a scan once a year at least, just to see if there's anything that is out of balance in the body that needs readdressing, because it's good to know what's going on so that we can start the process of treating it. I've had lots of people that have come to me saying, I've had this test done, I've had that test done, it's all come back clear. But what you've got to remember with testing is you can get lots of false negatives with stool testing, with cameras in, and with breath testing. So for some of the digestive stuff, they do breath testing, and they all come back saying, oh, I haven't got that, I haven't got that. But of course, when I look, I can find a lot of stuff going on. How much is the initial scan? Okay, good question, Emma. The initial scan is £200. You're with me for about, as I said, anything between 2 and 3 hours, depending on what's going on in the body. I am very thorough. That's why it takes that long. I do know other people that charge double when it's half the length of time, but I'm very thorough. I don't leave anything out. At the end of September, the scan is going up to £250. The reason that I'm putting the scan up is because since I've had the machine, I've done more training with my mentor Elizabeth, who is a homotoxicologist and a naturopath. Incredible. I'm learning more and more with her all the time. As she's showing me more, my scans are getting longer and longer, so I have to accommodate that, for I can't see as many people, so I have to accommodate for that. So that's why the price is going up, because people that initially came to see me, they would have been with me for about an hour and a half, and I was charging £150, and now it's gone to about 2 hours. It went to about 2.5 hours, and it's gone up to £200, and now it's going on a bit. I need to put it up a bit, so hopefully you understand that, but that's not till the end of September. So if you're interested in getting booked in, then that price won't go up to the end of September. And if you book before the end of September, but I can't get you in, I'll honour the price. Julie says, I paid £400 for my first one from someone else and wasn't half as qualified. And I think, Julie, because you came to me afterwards, we found lots that was going on that they hadn't picked up on. So yeah, that's the thing. And oh yeah, James has just piped in, Harley Street charge £999. And that's just for a scan, not a treatment. I always do scan and treatment in the initial, because what's the point? This is everything that's going on with you, bye. No, let me at least give you a little bit of alleviation of your symptoms. How much roughly are the courses? Yeah, that's another how long is the piece of string question, because it depends what we find when we're scanning. So some people will, they'll have one scan and I'll say, that's easy, I can see that, I can see that. That's how we need to treat it. It might be a course of supplements, it might be some dietary interventions, and that might be quite an easy fix. So that's obviously a cheaper alternative. But other people might need a 3-month protocol. I use homeopathy as well. I use something called no-sode therapy, which is little bottles like this, based on what we find in your scan, dropped into water and drunk over the course of 3 months to drain the bacteria and viruses that we found out of the system. It works incredibly well. We've had some phenomenal results, and it is my homotoxicologist that prepares these and gets them sent out to, well, all around the world now, because they're being sent everywhere from when clients come to see me from all over the place. There's only 7 of these machines in the country, and as far as I know, there's only 2 people using it like I'm using it, myself and my mentor. Anybody can buy one of these machines, but it's knowing how to use it to get the best out of it so that you can start to feel better and heal your clients. Yes, Tina's on her no-sode therapy and she's saying it really does work, so thank you, Tina, once again. Lulu, I have an underactive thyroid and would like to book in for a scan. So anybody that would like to book in for a scan, if you've got any more questions on the back of this, then I'll drop my You Can Book Me link, which is just for like 20-30 minute free discovery call, so we can just have a chat and find out if a scan would be beneficial for you. So I'll drop that link at the end of this, so that you can book in for a chat if you want to. If you've seen enough and you want to book in, just drop me a Facebook message and I'll send you what dates I have available. So hopefully you've seen enough to understand it a bit better. Every time I post about bioresonance therapy, I get lots of messages saying, well, what exactly is it? So I just wanted to thank you, honey, for being my glamorous assistant, to do a little live scan so that you can see a little bit more about what goes on during the course of an initial scan and treatment. Any questions, drop them below and I'll catch up with you soon. Take care.